Yo, what's up guys, Nanger here. Welcome to another video. Now this video is going to be kind of similar to that of Room Noxie's question from Ask Nan, week 7. Now if you weren't there for that, basically, if you ask me a question that's supposed to be for like an Ask Nan or something like that, or just, if you ask me a question that I think is like a really detailed question that I can't just, give you like a 5-minute answer to, that I'm gonna have to actually sit and think about how I want to answer the question. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna record a video, and then I'm just gonna do it that way, just because that way I can give you and others who might or most likely have the same question or similar questions a very, very detailed answer, and that way I can help all of you. That way I can help all of you at once, instead of just having to have these things typed up and saved on my phone. Right. So shoutouts to Krak Grenade, who is the originator of this question. Like I said, it's a very, very good question, and I was really happy to have the chance to go ahead and answer this. And shoutouts to Azazika. Now Azazika was very, very kind enough to go ahead and type all this up for me, so that way I could go ahead and copy paste it on my phone, because as you know, I've recorded quite a few videos today. I think this is going to be video 4 or video 5. Now, this question is, like I said, it's a mouthful, and there's 2 different ways that I wanted to answer this question. So I think for now, this might be a 2-part video, but if it's only 1 part, I expect it to be very, very long, because again, there's a lot of parts to this question. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. All right. I do not know if you have touched on the subject of deck building principles already, but I'd like if you could elaborate a bit on how it is that you adjust your decks in a more generic sense. There are archetype lists, and you can extract what a list normally runs by comparing, let's say, aggro blood lists, and extract what is common among all of them. Now, what are the steps you take to change your archetypal list to a more refined one? You have to account for many things. If you are a casual player that does this dailies, you likely won't be playing a lot with a specific deck, so you lack a big sample size. Do you know if you losing has to do due to misplays? Do you know if it is because you often face decks that counter yours in nature? Consequently, do you win because your opponents were not the best? How do you conclude which cards you put in your deck? You kind of have to account for a plethora of different decks and how the cards you put in interact with each of them. How do you know if running 3 copies of a card is a must-have or just preferential? How do you have the highest possible win rate? In mid-range Shadow, your main win condition is Ektar. In some games, you will not draw an Ektar, so it is reasonable to assume that you should run as much card draw as possible. Now, maybe running less card draw and more proactive follower cards makes your win rate increase more, because you will likely win through a superior board state in the games where you don't draw an Ektar. What I'm trying to get at is consistency versus power plays. Let's say you run 3 Soul Conversions and 3 Demon Eaters. How can you conclude that 3 of each is too much, and how do you know what to cut? Maybe you run a list which would be better off running just Soul Conversions due to them being better with Ghosts, etc. Greetings, sorry, did not allow me to format this properly. Okay. Now, again, I'm just gonna go ahead and break this out in parts. I will go ahead and just mention that this last part here, the maybe running less cards or more proactive follow cards, I will be talking about that in its own separate videos. I'm just going to go ahead and talk about this first part here. Okay, so for me personally, the way I go about deck building is that I'm just a plug and chugger. What that means is that I usually make a list from scratch for the most part, unless of course it's something that I haven't played at all before, in which case I usually will find a net deck for it. Now, net decks are a viable resource in that sense. So that way, if you're brand new to a deck, that way you have a starting point. You don't just kind of get lost in the bigger picture of it all. and just kind of, get distracted. Like, for example, if you were to suddenly say, oh, I want to play Control Blood, well, how exactly are you building control blood? Like there are a lot of different like ways you can build it. So as a result, you usually try to look at net decks first. So that way you can kind of get a general idea of what other people are doing and kind of go off of that. Now I'm not saying use just look at someone's 40 cards and just copy it word for word. No, because you're gonna find a lot of times that like if you don't personally know the person and therefore can't ask the person questions about like, oh okay, well why does your deck look like this, or why don't you have this, or why do you have that what you're gonna find is that like when you're playing, you're gonna be playing without the full range of capabilities that the deck could possibly have if the deck's originator were playing it. Now, again, there are ways to get around that, just because if you play enough games, you should be able to see what is and isn't working. Now, I did actually talk about this a little bit in my intro to spreadsheets, where it's very, very important when you go ahead and you play new decks, or when you go ahead and you try out new decks, but usually mainly just when you play new decks, that you go ahead and you just like write down what is and isn't working. Now, it's very, very important to be very, very vigilant about this, just because you play so many games and so many things happen as you're playing the games, that you kind of like lose track and you kind of become forgetful. But if you use the spreadsheet and you're like constantly inputting all that information down, it helps you remember, so that way you understand, okay, well, this is what worked, this is what didn't work. Now, there is a way, obviously, in the spreadsheet thing that I posted in the intro to spreadsheet things. I believe you could just do like right before you get to notes, you could just do like a tab 8 and a tab 9, where you would put, okay, was I using a tech? Yes. If so, what tech? And then, did I see the tech? Did the tech do anything? And then there you go. So that's one step I take. Additionally, when I play a deck, I go ahead and you usually want to keep in mind exactly what the best like 3 to 4 decks are in the metagame. So right now, if you're building a deck, you need to compensate for the fact that the best 3 and 4 decks right now the best 3 and 4 decks, and as well as the most popular, are Dragon, Blood, Shadow, and there are 2 different really popular Blood decks, so that's kind of like unfair. And then there's also like Aggro Shadow as well. But for the most part, you're mainly going to be accounting for those 3 classes, at least at this time of recording. Now, in the past, for me, like for example, back in Tempest of the Gods, what I was accounting for when I played was I was accounting for the fact that I was going to have to play a lot of Dragon Mirror matches, as well as the fact that I wanted AoE that wasn't going to be like awful versus Dragon, just because like versus Dragon doesn't play. The only time Dragon has multiple creatures on the board is when you're already dead. And as a result, that's one of the things that led me to trying out Fafnir as a card, just because like Fafnir was he's good in the mirror, and he's also good versus Shadow. Yes, if you're a casual player that just does like dailies, you're not gonna be playing that much. So for the most part, for you, it's usually a lot better for you to just get a net deck and just use that. For the losing part, that kind of comes down to game review. It's really important to just like watch all of your games, or if you don't know how to play the deck, or sorry, not even if you don't know how to play the deck, if you're unsure of what the best lines for the deck are, it's important to get like a second opinion. Just maybe ask someone, or be like, hey, can you go ahead and watch this replay for me, and just like upload it to YouTube, and like the uploading takes maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. So like it's very short, and for the most part, you don't even have to add music if you don't want to. Just just record it. Just make sure the person can see the entirety of the game from start to finish, and then just you're good to go. Also, the important thing is make sure the person is good. Now, what I mean by good is like the person needs to be like someone who's high up on ladder, but also someone who or also just someone who like exudes an aura of, oh, this person knows what they're talking about. Because yes, you can be a master and you can be actual trash at this game. I'm not kidding. I see so many misplays and like low to high masters. That's actually ridiculous. Alright, for the next part, do you know if it is because you often face decks that counter yours in nature? Now, it's important when you start playing a deck that you go ahead and you do as much research as humanly possible on it. Now, for me, whenever I start playing a deck, I go ahead and the things I look for are, okay, well, what's a counter to the deck? What's the deck's like ideal winning scenario? Like, so for example, with Haven, you want to have Heavenly Aegis interplay. With Shadow, you want to have that Ektar. With Dragon, you probably just want to have like a really big fatty in the way, and that's that might be your Bahamut or might not be your or that might not be your Bahamut, etc. You also want to find out the average win time, as well as common text both for and against your deck. Now, for example, using NEP as an example, a common tech that people have used for it in the past was Odin, because they play the NEP, you play your Odin, you banish their Mordecai, you evolve into the NEP, and then you're back to an even board state, but they're missing a NEP. Like, you're missing Eva, but they're missing a NEP and they're missing their Mord. That's pretty good value. And then, of course, for the how do you know if running through copies of a card is a must-have or just preferential? How do you have the okay? Well, like I said, I'm gonna be skipping the number of copies of cards thing, because that will be its own separate video. Just because I know right now, if I go ahead and I talk about it right now, it's gonna take me at least 20 minutes to do so. So, how do you have the highest possible win rate? Okay, so for highest possible win rate, that just comes down to, you have to play a lot of games. Like, you have to play a lot of games. You also have to like misplay as little as humanly possible, and there's a lot of ways to misplay. You can misplay by mulliganing by using your mulligan the wrong way. You can misplay by not making good on board trades, like for example, not taking value trades when you should be, or going face when you should be trading, etc. And it's important to acknowledge that, like, at least once per game, for the most part, you're going to make some kind of mistake at some point. It's just important to realize immediately, okay, this was a mistake, and this is why it was a mistake, and to also try to rectify that situation, if possible, as fast as possible. But yeah, let's see, is there anything else that's on this list that I can talk about that won't be too long? Oh, and then the other important thing is that when you're playing, yes, your deck has like an ideal win con. However, unless you're playing combo, your deck should not only have just like one win con. You should have a few different ways they can go ahead and you can get the W. Like for Shadow, they usually want off the fact that your opponent is doing whatever possible to play around Ektar, And in that shadow, you don't have to play back there. You can just keep digging through your deck. Go ahead and keep like making tokens that your opponent's gonna freak out over, and then you're gonna win that way. Just because like if your opponent doesn't clear it and you have the Ectar, well, your opponent's gonna lose. It's gonna be unfortunate. Yeah, like it honestly just comes down to little things. I don't know exactly how well this far that I've like covered all these topics, but just go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. This is all I have for today. Like I said, it was a really long question overall, and I really did enjoy having received this question. I will be talking about the number of copies of cards in a deck in a separate video. The reason why it's going to be in a separate video is because I'm actually going to be using an article. It's actually a very, very old article, but it's still a very, very good read. And yeah. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed this and you want more content. And yeah, I will catch you guys next time. See ya.